Boy, this whole Jadon Sancho situation is just getting more embarrassing, isn't it? I'm not even just talking about Sancho himself in this too. David Ornstein has confirmed that Chelsea are able to back out of a 25 million obligation to sign Sancho simply by paying United a 5 million fee. There's a few things I want to say about that. Manchester United have made a pretty good habit over the last 10 years of signing players for big money on big wages that they end up getting lumbered with because we can't move them on. You can add Jadon Sancho into that category. And especially after confirmation from David Ornstein that Chelsea have got a £5 million fee that they could pay. And it means they could back out of an obligation to sign him. I've got 3 or 4 things I want to speak about, okay? Now, you can let me know what you think in the comments. What's your feeling as a United fan about Sancho and about this idea that United might now get him back? Now, the news, if you've missed it, Man United sent Jadon Sancho on loan to Chelsea and they had an obligation to buy him. £25 million. That's what was reported back in August when he joined. An obligation is an obligation. You can't choose whether you do it. You're obliged to do it. That's why United fans were happy that that loan deal was agreed. Now, Jadon Sancho has gone on at Chelsea to have very little impact. A few games at the start, but that's about it. Now the idea that United are going to have to take Sancho back and that Chelsea can back out of a 25 mil obligation and just pay a 5 million fee is outrageous. And you know what? The first thing is, feels like a peak Chelsea thing, this. They put their lawyers on it. They found to be fair, the clause in the contract was probably quite obvious. It feels like such a peak Chelsea thing. But you know what? Can't blame them. If I was Chelsea, or if I was a Chelsea fan, I would want my club to do the exact same thing. I turn and I point towards United for letting this clause exist. Was it the fact that had this clause not been inserted that we couldn't shift Sancho? That was the only way that we could make it work. I mean, it's possible. But the fact that United have allowed a clause to exist, which is only 20% of what the obligation was, that's so cheap compared to what it should be. If you're going to back out of an obligation, pay 50% of the value of the contract, 12.5 million, you can walk away from it. That will certainly make Chelsea turn around. But I think this is embarrassing, really. That United allowed that to exist or needed it to exist. And it's embarrassing for Jadon Sancho as well, man. Mr. Freedom Fighter, I've said this so many times, right? That Jadon Sancho is going to be looking back on his career with regret when he's older. The way that he's carried himself at Manchester United. Look, when he was at Dortmund, we don't need to run the ins and outs of it. He's had issues at Dortmund. He's had issues at City. He's had issues at Chelsea. He's had issues at United. He's had issues at every single club. And there is a common denominator, and his name is Jadon, and his surname is Sancho. You remember that little post after Marcus Rashford left United to join Villa on loan? Sancho's there. Straight freedom, baby. Freedom. That's what you would call that Chelsea move. Freedom. That's what you would call the fact that I cannot believe how much of a clusterfuck he's made of his Manchester United career. And Chelsea, look, I hope that this is correct. That Chelsea, and this is from Sky Sports, that Chelsea still have the intention to sign Sancho. But I don't believe it. I don't know why Chelsea would sign him. An abundance of wingers that already exist in that team. They're going to get Giovanni Kenda. Obviously not this summer, but the summer after. Why would they do that when all they need to do is pay a measly... So basically, a £5 million fine is effectively... It's kind of like a loan fee, right? I don't know what percentage of the wages that Chelsea covered. I think the report suggested it was somewhere in the region of 40 to 60%. So £5 million, 300 grand a week, 1.2 mil a month. That's what, 4 months worth of wages as a fee? It's minor. I don't see why Chelsea would spend 25 mil on a player that they clearly don't particularly want. Enzo Maresca's not... He's been in and out of that team. He made a decent start. I don't think any Chelsea fan would be upset if he was to be sent back. And I think that ultimately the biggest problem here is that United allowed that clause to exist. And that's a lie. That's the biggest mistake here. The biggest problem here is Jadon Sancho himself. And there's some fans that are not, I wouldn't say United fans are celebrating the idea, but some United fans are saying, well, hold on, Sam. So that means that we can get a 5 million fee and then just sell him ourselves in the summer anyway. Well, that's a win-win, isn't it? Yeah, but that's under the presumption that somebody will buy Sancho. If you're a football club, why on earth would you look at Sancho and go, that is somebody who I would want at my football club? Top level, yeah, you can talk about it, blah, blah, blah. There's so much evidence that you can see that Sancho is not worth the risk that you will take by taking his wages on board. And this is what I mean. United are now lumbered with another player who's on ridiculous wages, whose stock has fallen massively, who no club realistically will want to sign and want to pay those wages for and want to pay the money for. And therefore, what do we do? How do we find a way out of this situation? I don't really know, but I said it this morning. I think Sancho, for me, is going to go down as probably the most disappointing signing for me personally. Like, versus the feeling I had when Sancho came in as a 21-year-old from Dortmund and the career he built there and the reputation that he built for himself and that we needed a right winger. And signing for Solskjaer, just everything seemed to be aligning. The disappointment versus the expectations and hope I had of him for the next few years in a United shirt compared to the reality. That's why I would put Sancho down as the most disappointing signing that we've made post-Fergie. Now, I think Sanchez was a more damaging signing because of the ripple effect of his wages, and Di Maria was kind of in the same category as Sancho. But it's embarrassing for everyone, this. It's embarrassing for Sancho that he's got a club who has loaned him out to another one. And now that club that he's been loaned out to is... can we just pay 5 mil and then not sign him? Might be a decent idea. Look, fingers crossed they actually do, but I don't know why Chelsea would. I fully expect that at the end of this summer, end of this season, that Manchester United are going to have Jadon Sancho back, that Chelsea would have paid 5 million, and that we're going to have to try and find a buyer for him. And I imagine it would end in another loan with an obligation. But as we've just found out, loans with obligations aren't really loans with obligations. Now, I tried to do a bit of research. Has this happened before in the Premier League? I couldn't really find any names. Have there been any other clubs that have had a loan with an obligation, but then backed out of it and simply paid a fee? So it's effectively a loan with an option. You can let me know what you think about this whole situation in the comments below. Where are you pointing the finger towards? Well, you point the finger towards Jadon Sancho. And I don't want my football club to have to waste another second on dealing with Jadon Sancho. And because of this clause, it looks like we may well be.